Welcome everyone. First things first, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know you can see my charts and you can hear me all right. If you wouldn't mind, before I dive right in here, make sure I'm not just going to talk to myself for a few minutes, which I've done a few times. How is everyone feeling on the markets? Do you guys think this bounce is the real deal? Do you think it's going to be short-lived? How is everyone feeling? I'll get started. Just checks good. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, how's everyone feeling about the market? You guys, let's jump right into it. Exactly what we were kind of talking about in the last couple of streams here that have basically played out absolutely perfectly. After setting the new higher high here on the 4 hour, we finally got our pullback to my bullish Stuber fib. I was shorting altcoins the whole way down. Caught the long reversal, and here we are. So what's next? There's a few levels that are on my radar currently, but honestly, we are starting to be in a little bit of a tricky spot right now, in my opinion. My reasoning for that is because, I mean, let's face it, the bulls, this was a great reaction from this level. And this is exactly why I love these fib pockets. And this is exactly why, I mean, for those of you who are familiar with my streams, you know that I always talk about how I really like the first test of those fib pockets. Because so often there's going to be, the market makers, whether you want to just say that they're testing that level or whatever, just so often, especially when you have a structure break like that, when we set our higher high here, that was just confirmation that, you know what, where's our lowest point between our high and our higher high? It's way down here. So as long as we hold above that, technically this uptrend is still intact. And, just looking from a bullish perspective, since we had that bullish structure break, yes, everyone loves to FOMO into breakouts and everyone loves to get bearish when, you get a healthy price chart. And that's all this was. I was very clear for several weeks now that, I was targeting this 94 down to 91K, this fib box down here. And, a lot of people did not want to hear that because it's so hard to accept the fact that healthy price action is kind of a thing sometimes. And, breaking that structure, coming back, basically the way I see it is, you guys know, on the 5 minute, I'm more so trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute typically. But this is the exact same setup that I always look for. And a lot of people have a hard time zooming out and accepting that the same kind of price action that happens on 1 minute or 5 minute charts also happens on 4 hour charts and daily charts and weekly charts, but people have a hard time zooming out and accepting that they take time to play out. So this wasn't even a bearish theory. This was honestly me being bullish and expecting a healthy pullback. So the thing is now, I mean, I've closed half of this long position. I did get into it down here just above my 786. Honestly, if I had played this the same way I play a 5 minute chart, I would have had a better entry. It would have been right in the middle of this fib pocket because I would have laddered in at the 786 and the 886. But since it was a 4 hour chart, I waited to see the reaction. I waited until we basically tested into this fib pocket. We tested it perfectly. We came basically perfectly down to the 886 and then reclaimed this box candle bodies closing above the 786. So that's where I decided to pull the trigger basically. But you guys know I was calling for this price action for weeks. This had nothing to do with me having any insight on how tariffs were going to work. I have not listened to one presidential speech. I have not listened to one FOMC meeting. I literally, my edge on the market is ignoring absolutely everything and just playing the charts for what they are. And when you get rid of the noise around you, it's a very clear structure pattern right here. Nothing too crazy really happened here. So, the problem is that right now where we are, yes, it's been a beautiful long position. Here's my thoughts, you guys, is yeah, you know what? We got a great deal of strength off of this fib pocket. And yes, this was very, very expected. But what concerns me is this is a nice bullish reaction off of a 4 hour chart, a 4 hour chart setup. And what I've been mostly bearish on is actually this weekly chart. And you guys will know about this, that, I have this big, ugly bearish divergence on the RSI. So, and even in my video was that yesterday, I was talking about the fact that I thought it was very likely if we got this double top at this level that I thought within the first day or two of this weekly candle, we would test back up towards this red box. If nothing else, just retesting the previous candle, right? Same thing. People have a hard time zooming out, but basically every chart kind of works the same, right? If this was a 1 minute or a 5 minute chart, would everyone be, ready to lose their minds just because we pull back into the previous candle? No, pretty much every chart, every time frame, you see candles pull back and retest into the previous candle. That's very normal. Not every single candle, but very often you see that. That's totally normal. So to see that on the weekly chart, we still do have this bearish divergence here, and that still does concern me greatly about the macro health of Bitcoin right here, because basically the way I'm seeing it, if we're attacking the same level of resistance here, but we have significantly less strength in the market, why are we guaranteed to break out here and set new highs? Don't get me wrong, guys. Again, just like I went over yesterday, I have my invalidations. This is just a theory, being open to the idea that we don't have to go straight to the moon. I know that's an unpopular opinion to have, that the market can go down as well. But it would just be very natural to get some sort of a pullback up like this. And I am very concerned about this. We're going to have to see. But yeah, if we break above these highs, we invalidate this resistance, we get back into overbought territory on the RSI. At that point, I'm a moon boy again, just like everybody else. That's totally fine. You know what? It's great to have invalidations. But as it looks right now, I'm just a little bit concerned that I don't know if this 4-hour support is going to outweigh this weekly resistance. I have my doubts about this, but I am very happy to be wrong. I'm happy to play this market either way. I've just been loving that it's so volatile. Absolutely fantastic. Since bouncing on, well, basically, so here's where I got in my entry in this blue dotted line here, 93,958 is where my average entry is. I actually was under the impression we were going to drop back down and get some sort of a smaller Stuber fib. Something like that from where we bounced. I thought we would get a retest. So I had a bunch of more laddered orders on the way down to catch this retest. Never got it. That's trading, right? You're not always going to get your entries. And so my position's smaller than I was hoping, but it's still a beautiful position nonetheless. I have taken profits on half my position. And, from there, it can just continue to run. We'll see what happens. It's a very stress-free position to be in when you take partial profits like that, because at this point I can't lose money on this position. I have paid myself on the position. It's all risk-free from here. And that way, if this does continue running to the upside, I'm not in a panic of being left behind. I have a very good entry right now. Hopefully it holds. But if not, you know what? It's looking like I'm going to be looking for a head short right away. Just the fact that we are getting up towards our resistance levels here, makes me consider the possibilities that, hey, if we end up losing one of these higher low structures here, because notice ever since we were pumping all day today, this is where I always talk about be very micro analyzing and stuff like that. But every one of these green lines is a higher low that's confirmed after we break a higher high. And we never broke that structure, even on a very micro analyzing, staircasing, just the immediate swing here. We never did lose a higher low on the 5 minute. And that's where we're getting very close to right now. When that actually happens, well, if and when that actually happens, if we break down below this range, that's where I'll be open to the idea that, hey, you know what? If we end up getting a bearish Stuber, like let's just say we drop right down to my 115. So we set a lower low there. At that point, I would consider that, there's a chance that there's some weakness there because we finally lost a higher low. And at that point, I would be looking at finding some sort of a hedge short around if I got a retrace to my Stuber fibs, basically. But we don't have that yet. That's just kind of something that I'm waiting for. And honestly, if not for nothing else, to protect myself, because a lot of people think that, to be a trader, you need to predict things perfectly. Being able to react is so much more important than being able to predict. So many people know how to predict, but have no idea how to trade. And you know what? There's a lot of people who are fantastic traders who will fully admit, and honestly, most good traders that I respect will fully admit that they don't know what's going to happen, but they know how to react to the market if certain criteria is met, if they have a repeatable trade setup that they can just keep playing over and over, right? They're not going to win every time. But that's being able to control your losses. And that's why I love playing fibs and looking for those breakouts followed by the pullbacks, because that really helps tighten up the risk reward by really tightening up your invalidations. So at this point, I'm not really willing to guess a top to short at. But when we do break some structure on a lower time frame, I'm going to be looking at trying to find some sort of a hedge. I am in a little bit of a deep short. Actually just hit my first take profit. I had mentioned this in the Telegram group. I never actually mentioned this short when I took it, because I ended up taking it. It was a scalp situation off an indicator. It just ended up running a little longer than I was expecting, but I do have some take profits at the 786, 886 here. I was warning that I thought that deep would drop down to these levels. One of my reasons for that is, again, just a fib pull. This is actually, here's the thing, guys. Do you notice anything about this setup right here? Let's remove my short entry. Do you notice anything about this support level right now? Does it look familiar? Does it look exactly like this, where we set a higher high, we pull a fib from our low, and then we end up coming back down to the 786, 886 fib pocket? Look at deep right now. It's the exact same setup. Yeah, it doesn't have to play out the same, but just to throw it out there, I mean, this looks to me like it's at a support level, and I'm not really willing to get into another long on this right now. But I am willing to look at it as taking some profits on my short. I don't want to start over trading here, because I already have a beautiful Bitcoin long open. And you know what? If this is going to run as a short, then it's a little bit of a hedge, if nothing else. So I'm just going to let these two positions run for now. But to me, this looks like an absolutely beautiful. Actually, if we drop further into this and I can tighten up my risk reward even more, I will consider taking a bit of a long position. That could be a hedge to the short that I have on deep at this point. But yeah, that's just typical structure, right? It's totally normal when you break structure. I know everybody loves to FOMO into breakouts, and that's why most people lose at trading. You're so much better off waiting for those pullbacks, because it's very natural. Charts, most crypto assets will range significantly more often than they'll be breaking out, going directly one direction, right? It's so often that you form these bigger ranges, and that's kind of why I like using these fibs, because it makes it easier to play the range first and hope for a breakout after. So yeah, other than that, Trump, I was posting in the group as well. I think it's very likely it does something very similar, pulls back to this Fibonacci here. The structure looks a little bit different just because we went a little bit higher. But another reason for why I'm looking at these fibs is I've mentioned in the past using the Trendmaster indicator. This is an MDX Algo indicator, one of my favorites. I love looking for which way things are trending using this indicator. And I don't take every buy and sell signal in stone. Basically, I don't take each of them all too serious on their own, but I really love looking for which way they're trending. So in a case like this, I have a higher printed sell signal. So, being that the sell signals are trending to the upside, not necessarily going to be looking for shorts, right? That's just a reason to be a little bit cautious. But something that is worth considering with that is if we pull back, I think it's quite likely we actually get a higher buy signal printing. But it would make sense if we end up pulling our fib from basically the structure right around where we got this last buy signal, our previous structure point from there. I think it makes a lot of sense that we would come down, test this box, and then form some sort of a higher buy signal on this indicator and carry the trend to the upside if the market's going to continue climbing, right? We're going to have to see about that, but very similar setups there. Same with here on the Trendmaster, same thing on deep, right? We have a higher sell signal. So I'm still expecting us to find some support relatively soon. I have one more take profit on my short position right around the 886, just front running it a little bit. And then I'm going to leave half my position run if it keeps going. But yeah, so far, I mean, this price action here was very predictable, you guys. For those of you guys who are active traders, There is a link down below as well as this QR code here on display. This gives access to my private Telegram channel where I share my thoughts on the market, some of my trade setups I'm looking at, and so on. To access this channel, you must sign up to BloFin, the exchange, using my link. And there is a $300 deposit requirement. This is not a form of payment to me. This is your own money to trade with in your new BloFin account. We have made some beautiful calls in the group just over the last week here, including the recent Bitcoin move. Got a couple beautiful Trump shorts and a nice Bitcoin short, another Trump. So had some beautiful positions playing out in there. So if that is something that interests you, and for those of you who are in the group, I mean, hopefully this crazy volatility did not come as a surprise to you, because I've been very vocal about it for the last couple of weeks here. So yeah, hopefully you were able to catch some of those moves with me. Like I said, you want to keep up to date with my thoughts on the market, scan the QR code or click the link down below. Either is totally fine there. It'll take you through a little bit of a process there. Just because, guys, especially when I'm trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute and stuff like that, I don't always have time to, get onto stream here. By the time if I catch something on a 1 minute or a 5 minute, by the time I enter my positions, enter my stop losses, enter my take profits, take some screenshots, explain what I'm looking at. By the time I get live, I mean, obviously those positions may have come and gone. So it's a lot easier to get them out there very quickly in a Telegram group like that, posting something. So yeah, if you guys like my trading style, kind of want to see more of my insights on the market and kind of how I'm looking at everything, yeah, do yourselves a favor, check that out. Other than that, I'm just going to get some tunes going again, as I like to do on here. And then I'm going to catch up on some of the chat here, because I have a little. How are you all doing this fine evening? Hopefully you guys never got blindsided by this price action too much. Those of you on the stream, the last couple of streams and in the groups, I mean, you guys were ready for this, but for anybody new here, welcome, and hopefully you held out all right. Nice to see some of the legends in here. Lots of familiar faces in the chat. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. You are good. Well, thank you. Don't worry, I missed some too. I promise. This is pure market manipulation. I mean, yeah, maybe, but I feel like every bit of chart price action is always market manipulation, technically, because it's market makers setting their big buys and sells and controlling where the market goes. But the good news is, if you can read and understand technical analysis, we can use that against them. We can profit off them because it's very systematic. Zeus, yeah, deep. Not going back to 92 anytime soon. I mean, I also heard that we weren't going back to 94, so we'll see. Honestly, if that weekly chart does play out, that's a very strong reversal pattern, and I think 92Ks would be the least of your concerns if that does play out. I mean, we're going to have to see. Like I said, I mean, I'm long. The 4-hour support is still there. Support is support until it's broken. But if we start testing that support level repeatedly, I'm going to have my very serious concerns on the market. Tone and Matt do the morning show. I'm more of a degenerate, looking at the shorter time frames, looking at shit coins, looking at Bitcoin, scalping, lower time frames, overall market views, all of it. So hopefully you appreciate it. I try and give my best insights to you guys. I just say it how it is. I'm not necessarily the echo chamber kind of guy. I just say it how I see it. For the MRI, I'm not sure. I don't actually use the MRI, so I don't want to give you any misinformation there. Adrian, good to see you here, brother. So what is your next move? Another long on the support, or do we think we go deeper than 94K? Yeah, never say never. Exactly. Sorry, Adrian, I'll answer you in a second, but that never say never just makes me think, guys, that's exactly it. This market, I mean, to put it very blunt, does not give a fuck about our feelings, and it reminds us that every single day. And the market, you know, it can always happen. You know, every market cycle that I've been a part of so far, I have heard this cycle's different. That can't happen. And it always happens again. You always see big corrections. Like, this was not a bearish move. This was just a bullish retest. If we get a bearish move, you're going to know it. This was a 1 or 2 day move. This was not a big swing to the downside by any means. Very healthy price action, if you ask me. Like I was telling my friends, family, followers, I mean, I was saying for weeks, you know, as people started getting bearish here, I was just saying, basically, if this was a 5-minute chart, I would be long in this area. So just because it's a 4 hour, it's the exact same. I had zero interest in longing any of this or any of this until we got down to this level. There was a good chance that we would have just found support and kept going to the upside. But in that case, I would have missed my optimal entry. As far as a 4 hour swing entry, I was not willing to get in any earlier than this. It was just too obvious that we were coming down here. And again, that was no fundamental insights. That was just strictly higher high, pull back to my fibs. That's the whole foundation behind my strategy, basically. But we'll see. I mean, from here, I mean, really, we could get rejected at any time. I think it's time to be a little bit cautious because, like I said, you know, this top purple box here, this would be the resistance I'd be mostly concerned about, because that would be pulling a new fib from our all-time high here down to where we bottomed so far. Because usually you don't just, you know, first run smash right through resistance and carry through, right? It would make sense that after setting this as our high, we test some sort of a lower high or double top somewhere in there. Either way, the Stuber fib would be this purple box here. You're probably wondering what is with that lower purple box right here. So that's just if the bears want to step into the market very early without even giving the full retrace of the entire range. There is the possibility that there's a smaller range here, because technically speaking, we ended up setting a lower low here. We ended up setting another lower low here. That means this is our highest point between the two. That's our lower high structure. So if I pull a Fibonacci from that level down to where we bottomed out, that's where that this middle purple box comes from. I think if we go any higher, I think it still makes sense we go all the way up towards 106, all the way up towards really 108. But just if the bears want to step in quickly, because again, that weekly signal, I do have my concerns about that we just go a little bit higher and get rejected. And if that happens, I mean, it's very possible that the bears step in early with that weekly signal. I think the bounce today was very expected off this level. But we're going to have to see what happens from here. Like I said, I'm in a nice long position from down here. Not as big as I was hoping for, since I never got that second retest down here. And at this point, since the Stuber fib setup did already hit the take profit number 1 at the 0.5 fib, and I've taken more on the way, I'm obviously, I removed those orders, because if we come back down into that support pocket again, I'm going to have less faith in it. I mostly like that initial reaction off those levels, because so often they just get tested at least once. But if we keep testing this support, I think it'll eventually break through and we're going to see a crazy move to the downside. Whereas if we end up holding it from here, you know, we set higher highs, we are off to the races, in my opinion. We get that weekly RSI back into overbought conditions. I think we are going parabolic at that point. But I don't want to put my moon boots on quite yet. I don't want to put on the astronaut suit because we haven't set that bullish structure yet. So just because we have this very ugly bearish divergence, it's called for some very large moves in the past, right? Over here, some of you guys will remember I was quite bearish on this very channel at this level. And yeah, we ended up breaking it eventually, but we got a 30% correction to the downside from that signal. Back last cycle, we got one of those divergences. That was a market cycle ender. It's a little bigger, and I don't necessarily think that's the case right now, but just showing what that signal is capable of. Same with back here. It predicted the COVID crash a couple of months in advance. That scary divergence, and then we got the COVID crash. So, I mean, it's a pretty significant signal. It can be a strong reversal signal. If it gets invalidated, I think that shows a ton of strength, but it just hasn't been invalidated yet. So something worth considering. Switch up the jams a little. Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? We could have several different bull flags here. My main concern is just that weekly chart. I have a very bad feeling about going after our all-time high resistance with significantly less strength. If we had this much strength when we were testing this resistance, now we have this much strength and we're testing the same resistance. Are we going to break it with less strength? Some people might think that, hey, well, the RSI has cooled off. And yeah, maybe that's a thing. But honestly, I would rather see it in overbought conditions, because in a strong uptrend, overbought means a shit ton of buying strength. It doesn't necessarily mean overbought. It means a ton of strength. It's not until we drop that overbought conditions, that's where it's showing that, hey, we're starting to lose that strength. Now it's starting to look like there could be a reversal, right? So that's the reason why this signal scares me a little bit. Do I think Sailor's Ponzi will explode? The whole MicroStrategy buying a ton of Bitcoin at all times. My theory on that is I think there's going to be a lot of people who try and copy his business plan there and get absolutely wrecked. And we see some sort of a crazy thing, much like how with the whole Luna and Three Arrow Capital and Celsius and whatever companies were all involved with the crazy tumble last cycle. I could see something like that happening again. I personally think that Sailor's going to be okay. I could be very wrong. It could explode in his face someday. But the fact that he isn't FOMOing in to a market cycle top the way a lot of people would, because I remember very clearly when he started buying Bitcoin very aggressively down at like 9K or something. The fact that he's been in since 2 market cycle bottoms ago, I think that he's past the risky point of what he's doing. Again, I could be wrong. I am not a fundamental guy. I don't know how that whole situation's working. But yeah, that's just kind of my gut feeling, I guess. Tomorrow, press conference, 4 p.m. If underwhelming, could be a problem. If very good, then you get the RSI pumping. Yeah, it could be. Honestly, like I said earlier, I have never listened to a press conference. I have never listened to a Trump speech. I have never looking at fundamentals for the last 3 years or so of trading. I 100% am a charts guy, because I think if you try and understand the whole world economy and how things are going to affect each other, if you're trying to find an edge in the market and you're trying not to make mistakes with your analysis and using fundamentals for that, there's so many more angles to make mistakes when understanding the entire world economy than there is by just drawing a couple lines, using fib tools to see basic pullbacks and stuff. So I'm a simple guy. I like a simple strategy. So like I said earlier, I think my big edge on the market is how little I care about what's going on. I really, really don't give a shit, because if any fundamentals are going to affect the price, you're going to see the structure of the chart, because there's so often where fundamentals don't affect the price, in which case the structure still does. So that's kind of my thoughts there. But obviously, to each their own. I know lots of people do follow the news and stuff. Yeah, it's good to not maybe just turn a blind eye. I only know, I think, one person personally who actually trades the news and fundamentals very well, but I do not know many people who do that. And I know it always feels different, and people like to say, yeah, if you're yeah, this time's different, or the chart's going to be different this time because this is happening in the fundamentals. Well, if you've ever done back testing on chart patterns and you've gone back and looked at certain chart setups and stuff like that, do you really go back and look at what's in the news, what's in the media, what's going on fundamentally? No, you're just looking at the probabilities of the chart, nothing else. So to say that, yeah, this time's different because this is happening in the news or in the fundamentals, whatever, that's like saying that there's never been fundamentals happening at previous times where charts looked similar, right? So simple strategy, simple guy. I'd rather just trade the charts. Sorry to go on a rant there. That's just my, I get heated when I start thinking about listening to speeches and stuff, because I think it blinds me, honestly. When I start thinking about fundamentals and stuff, that's when I start making silly mistakes. Yeah, exactly. Whoever picked up BTC at 16K to 18K, no worries. Exactly. And you know what? To be quite honest, a lot of the people who argue with my bearish theories are the same people who were arguing with me when I was bullish down at those levels, down from about, what was it? I think 17K to 21K or something. I started getting extremely bullish, and I took a lot of flack for that. Do I see a lower low incoming? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. Even right now, we're starting to see a little bit of weakness, right? We finally lost one of these higher lows. Because since we had a high and a higher high, this was our confirmed higher low, and we actually ended up breaking that. So at this point, this is the thing, guys, right? This is one of those cases where I talk about, and yes, this may work out, where if since, hey, here is a bearish signal, right? We broke structure bearishly here. But a lot of people take that as I need to short right now. And that's not necessarily what that means, right? It's still so often after you get a structure break that you see a pullback. And that's where I love using Fibonacci's, right? Because then it takes a lot of the guesswork out. It's very systematic, right? If I'm not looking for resistance until getting a retest up of these levels, right? But all this stuff, I mean, giving my insights and this sort of thing, this is all stuff that I go over in my private group. So like I said earlier, for those of you who are, actual active traders and whatnot, you can scan my QR code. There's a link down below if you'd rather do that. If you want access to this channel, you must sign up to BloFin using my link, and there is a $300 deposit requirement, like I mentioned earlier. This is, again, not a form of payment to me. This is your own money to trade with on your own new BloFin account. It's just an active group of traders. We've made some beautiful calls in there. Like I said earlier, I mean, we've been longing Bitcoin, shorting Trump, shorting altcoins, shorting deep. Yeah, been quite active in there. Lots of signals. And, you know, just my thoughts on the market in general. So if that's something that you're interested in, like I said, you can scan the QR code there. But yeah, I'm actually interested in hedging a bit of a short. I am actually going to take off here. I have a few things that I want to do here, and I'm getting hungry. But basically what I'm looking for now is if the price keeps going down, I'm going to be chasing this price with my fib. I still have half of that long position running from down below 94K down here. But I am looking at taking some sort of a hedge in the fact that we finally broke higher low structure right here. I'd be willing to take a stab at a hedge up at these levels. Not saying that it has to play out, but I'm looking at this, if nothing else, an insurance play, because if we start dumping from there, it would be great to be in a bit of a hedge position short. As I start losing profits on my long, then the short can take over. If we end up finding new lows, because that weekly chart, for example, does really nuke the market even further, then I'm going to be in a very nice position. If we just continue climbing from here, then my long position is just going to take the reins again, and that's totally fine too, because that's just a beautiful running position at this point. Just a way to protect myself, because like I said, it's so much more important to be able to react to the market rather than predict. And this is just a way I'm going to be reacting, is that, you know what, to protect myself if we end up nuking to the downside, I just want to get in a decent position the opposite way, since I'm already in such a nice long from down here. So that's kind of my thoughts there. So let me just keep going through the comments here, see if there's anything new. You guys, if you do appreciate my insights on the market, like seeing my trading strategies, just how I keep a level head compared to a lot of people in the markets, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, if you want to catch these live streams with me. Do I ever look at the 618 fib in my pulls? No, not too often. I understand it is a strong level as well, but I find so often that if you're going to find support at the 618, so often it's that the candle bodies will respect the 618 and the wicks will still end up hitting the 786. Just to tighten up my risk, because I do use higher leverage, stuff like that. So I like to get as close. I kind of like laddering into my positions, or laddering into my positions closer to my invalidations when I can. And especially since I trade shorter time frames and stuff, you know, if it doesn't quite make it to the 786, I'm probably going to find another one later in the day or on a different asset or whatever. But I just like having that tight risk reward. So that, because let's face it, I mean, every trader loses trades. I lose them too. Don't get the wrong idea that I'm perfect and don't lose trades. It's the fact that when you lose trades, you need to control those losses, right? And that's what fibs really help do, is it really helps tighten up that risk, getting that pullback. What is Bitcoin's value? What is it good for? I mean, obviously a store of value, digital gold, easy to move value. If you, or if you work internationally, for example, like I myself, being that I'm moving funds around every single day, it is much more friendly for me to be moving Bitcoin around rather than using my bank. It's cheaper, it's faster, there's less fuck around. So to the average person, yeah, mostly a store of value, I would say. It's technically programmed to outperform the dollar since it's a set amount, a set supply. You're going to join the group? Nice. Yeah, it's on Telegram. Again, here is that QR code. if you want to scan, like I said, there's a $300 deposit requirement. But again, that is not a payment to me. That's just to have active traders in the group. But yeah, that's where I share my signals. Obviously not going to catch them all because again, trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute and stuff like that, sometimes, yeah, if I get into a scalp, there's a chance 1 minute later it's totally changed. Earlier this morning there was a deep short that I took. I was literally about to post it, and a minute later it absolutely dumped and it hit 2 of my take profits already, so it wasn't even worth it anymore. But I'm always trying to stay a step ahead of the markets, kind of giving my insights, just looking for fib pulls in advance, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, looking forward to having you in there. It's been great. It's a new thing, but we're growing quickly. Good to see people in there. Hopefully people are taking some value out of it. Hopefully something I say or point out someday just helps someone, whether it's you like my strategy or something I say helps something with your own strategy click a little better, anything like that, right? Anyways, guys, I think that is about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you did find this stream useful. If you did, be sure, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And like I said, if that public telegram, or sorry, private telegram channel of mine, if you want to see how I'm kind of looking at the markets in a live fashion, just kind of staying up to date with how I'm looking at things I'm maybe looking at taking entries on and that sort of thing. There is that link down below, and as well, of course, the QR code. So with that, looking forward to the next one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep fit and have fun. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.